We'll call the June 15th, 2023 meeting of the Economic Development Authority to order. I'd be looking for a motion to approve the June 15th agenda.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And approval of the May 18th county EDA meeting minutes that were back.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion. Oh, for the love of God.
Second.
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And opposed? All right, brings us to our first business item, child care discussion. Molly.
Okay. Oh, perfect, she's got it up there. So, just a little bit of background. So, we know it's part of our strategic plan for the ADA, but, I am the, executive over at the Y, and, we know, I mean, we were maxed out. I think our registration opened for summer for school age care. It opened like February 1st, and we were full by like February 6th. And so we know there's a huge need, and all of you that are, in the business sector and world know too. So we've been digging in for over a year, on trying to figure out, first we just thought, the answer is we just need to add more child care centers, but it's not that simple. Also, just kind of some background, like we have 8, ECLC, so that's kids under the age of 5. School age care makes money. Kids under the age of 5 doesn't. And so that's what makes it so tricky, is how do you do that? The why, we lost, COVID was hard on us, right? So we're still in a recovery plan. We can't start a new entity with taking another loss. So we were trying to figure out some creative ways to solve community needs, and then also perhaps there are opportunities to have it be at least a break even. So as we dig into it, I'll just if you go to page 6, I think it is. Yeah, page 6. And I don't know if you can make it bigger, but you can see where Sherburne County comes. They're at the bottom. They're the bottom, 1, 2, 3, and then there's one more.
It's not bigger.
Oh, yeah, that's. I'll kind of explain what those columns are. So that first column, we'll start with Elk River. I'm most familiar with Elk River, but it shows all of Sherburne County. So that first column that says 8 under Sherburne County, so that's child care centers. So when this was completed, that was 2021. They actually are just collecting data now, and this is through First Children's Finance. And then they will deploy that with updated numbers. And so that says 8 child care centers, but in Elk River, only 5 of them take infants. So it's a little bit misleading. The other 3 are only preschool and older. So that's part of the thing. The next number, that 1052, that's their child care center capacity. What is that? Doesn't like. I'm not sure that number makes sense. That's a duplicate. I'm not 100% what that one is. Child care center capacity, that must be all of those. And then FCC is the next one, 65. That is family child care centers. That's the number of family child care centers that were in Elk River. So 65 home daycares, if you will. And then the capacity of all those family child care centers is 790 people, kids. And then total capacity, that is right, child care center and family would be 1842. So that was right. So basically with the 8 centers, there's room for 1,052 kids, in addition to 790 more spaces for the other in the family centers, which leaves a capacity of 1,842 kids that we could supply daycare just in Elk River. So that lists it by city within our county. With the number that 1566 right next to it, that's what they figure at 85%. They figure no child care centers are really ever 100% full. First Children's Finance figures it based on about an 85% capacity. And as I've researched and worked with the centers in our area, most of them are down more like 70% because of lack of teachers. They can't find staff. And so that contributes to our deficit, for sure.
Molly?
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is that just centers? That does not include in-home daycares?
Nope, that's both. You mean 85%?
No, I mean this data set?
It
Is
includes,
just-
nope, it includes centers and
And
family
in-home.
child, yep, and
Okay.
in-home,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
And the in-homes, again, this is 2021 data, 'cause that's the most
That's
recent we
true.
have. And they're closing, as many of you probably are aware, they are closing at a much faster rate than new centers are, or the new family centers are opening.
Thank you.
The next number, that 3,100, that's how many parents, they listed for under 6 and under 5. Those next two numbers are parents who, or adults in the household who are working. So kind of getting an estimate. So then the number in the red is the negative 1069. So over 1,000 people are currently, give or take, right? We've got some data, are looking or in need of childcare and don't have it. That number is a little bit deceiving. What I'm finding out is because there are a lot of folks who want part-time, and a lot of centers just won't take it. I see something, yep, I feel your pain, right? They won't do part-time, because they don't have to. They can fill their spaces with full-time. And so with a lot of folks having the hybrid option to work and things changing, or they have a grandparent that will take the kids 1 day a week or 2 days a week, they really only need that part-time. So it's a little bit bigger case scenario. And then there's a lot of families that we've talked to. We're actually working, the Y is with an agency to do some, just so we have really good data, surveys, focus groups to find out, is it, because the centers have openings, so there are some centers that have openings, so even for infant care, but it's $409 a week. And so the biggest issue isn't that there isn't space, it's a lack of teachers and the cost. And so we could charge $409 too. We would break, but we won't fill that for $409. People can't afford, who wants to pay $1,600 for a child to go to daycare? Like, why are you working? And so that's what it comes down to. And so the problem that we're needing to solve is family centers, the family child care centers, they're a lot more reasonable. Health and Human Services through Sherburne County has a website, on their website, literally like a 9-step check process on how to get it started and how to complete that. But I don't think many people know about it. Shock, right? And so I think part of what we can do as an EDA is, and as the Y, is like we were holding trainings. We provide childcare while they go through their certification trainings and licensing procedures, because that can be a barrier. Those are baby steps to get started. But there are folks that are intrigued or interested in looking at family child care centers. And that's our quickest solution. A larger center is harder to come by. But then the other piece is looking at a different plan, or a different partnership with businesses, there's been government agencies, there's things all over, but is it part of your benefit package? Do they subsidize so that they could do a center, or do they have something on site? To look at it more globally, but it's more of a price thing, and the issue is really infants and toddlers. There's really and it's like I said, it's the pay. It's how much people are willing to pay. So like, there's a new center, and I can't think of the name right now. It's right by Target, not Seago, which I know isn't Sherburne County, but they have openings in every age category. And even New Horizon does too. But people don't want to or can't pay that. And so for us, just as a community, to open a new child care center and then pillage and take their staff isn't helping our community either. Now I'm really speaking, you can see this and we can send this out afterwards, but Clear Lake doesn't even have any centers, right? So that's a huge issue for that community. And so there's a variety of things, but just kind of give you a big picture, kind of a snapshot of what we're learning, what some of the real challenges are. And then we don't have all the solutions yet, but trying to dive deeper into closing some of those gaps.
Another quick question. Did they ever study, I know I hear on occasion, because you've got quite a few companies that do a third shift or even a second shift, and they struggle to find, did they ever look into that as to what those numbers would possibly look like? If that service was provided somehow?
They have not. Milestones Minnesota might, but First Children hasn't. We have not, but that's on our docket. We have tried in the past offering second shift, and it has not historically. But again, our whole worlds have changed since COVID, and so what we used to do doesn't mean we can't try. We shouldn't try it again. Sometimes it was just the wrong time or the wrong audience. So looking in that, and then we've also are exploring even just as we get started, like just even if it's drop-in, but weekend childcare, because Not everybody works Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. So,
And you said they're doing another study. Did they happen to say when those numbers would be ready?
probably by January, that takes about 6 months. Yeah, yeah.
And in your estimation, you think the new numbers are gonna be worse?
Yeah. And then just kind of just other just information too, and Jessica and I have spoken to, but there are programs through the Initiative Foundation, even through the Y, where we're subsidizing or we're paying for people to go to college or get their 2-year to help with that lack of staffing. To incentivize people to go into childcare, working with the high schools, doing internships. Again, people don't know. People might consider something different, or if they like kids, or they wanna be like, or that they could start in a childcare center and they could actually own their own business, right? They could transfer that, so at this point, I think those are some of the things we can initially do, because there are programs, there are, things out there to encourage people to go into childcare and early education.
Did I hear
They do
you,
a- Sorry.
did I hear you correctly say that, so you do have a training program that will help folks start from ground zero up through certification?
We have a 2-year and a 4-year degree program through the U of, partners at the U of M.
And is the pay attractive? I've heard that's been somewhat of an issue, is the pay to go into a childcare field is not as great. So to put 2 years into something, possibly a career debt.
Exactly, but it's getting better.
Okay.
The state's working on that, Deed's working on that, it is getting better. And again, it's more enticing to a young person to say, you can go get this 2-year certification, that you, and you have no debt, and then you can come out and you will make $20 an hour, or, you know, something of that nature. And then if they choose to, they can go back. And these centers, you only have to have 2 like licensed 4-year degree teachers. The rest are teachers' aides or assistant teachers. Some of them don't require any formal education, just some trainings and certifications, which we are providing at no cost.
And assuming some of the pay is also part of the cost to put your child into daycare during the week, so there's kind of a,
Right, yeah, yep, some of that overhead pieces.
I
How
know
are
the
you-
go ahead.
Go ahead.
The legislature had some, bills that dealt with childcare. Can you talk about how that'll help, or does it help, the things that were passed this session? Or is it too new?
It's really new. Some of it's for staffing. A lot of it is for staffing and helping with staffing, and some of it is for like, which you don't find very often, like bonding or to actually get centers built. But the bigger problem is the operation of it. It's the 10-year plan. It's hard to see, and how long is that funding available, and is it?
short-term fix
Yeah.
versus long-term.
Exactly.
Is, how do you promote that program? The program on bring people in to get them certified?
Mostly through like the colleges and high schools. So like the community colleges, but in the high schools, a lot of our current staff that we have a lot of young people. I mean, right now with all the camps and things that are in high school, pretty internally, to be honest.
So what I'm wondering is, it's not a short-term fix, but this is a significant issue with the businesses in Sherburne County, as an example. I wonder if there's a way to promote this program through the businesses, you know, and it would be something that, you know, obviously a significant other, you know, could participate in. But, you know, Cargill helps, you know, at the sites promote, hey, you know, if your spouse or whatever is interested in this, the Y has this program, and make the connection. It wouldn't cost Cargill anything to do it, right? But, or maybe it does, maybe they help with, you know, tuition or whatever that stuff is, but, I don't know, so just kind of spitballing it though, maybe there's a way to promote it through the businesses have a vested interest in getting more daycare centers put up. It's a way to get the word out that you have the program, through the groups that actually need the support. I don't know.
And Initiative Foundation has the same program
Yeah.
where they're funding.
If you want to go to school to be a childcare provider, you can do that at no
No
cost.
cost.
Like there are several different avenues that you can take to get your license debt-free and get going.
Do we know how much the schools are exposing this opportunity?
Like high schools?
Yeah, for careers or whatever, they have the big career
I'm-
initiatives.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. When you were talking about pay, I think it was St. Cloud Technical and Community College sent me a sheet for like I want to say it was their accelerated associate's degree program for early childhood education. And the wage that you can expect to make from graduating from that is $14 an hour.
Yeah, that's a.
So that alone, like I'm like, I wouldn't want to hand that sheet to anybody, you know what I mean?
No child is gonna, or kid is gonna do that.
Right, and so when you think
You
about,
make
like,
more
when
at
they take stuff
McDonald's.
to school, if that's what they see, they're gonna be like,
Yeah, and you don't have to take care of little kids. You flip a burger at McDonald's for almost 20.
right.
Have you worked with Debbie at the chamber at all to help get word out about that?
A little bit, we actually met yesterday, believe it or not. Yeah, we have done a little bit, and I've worked with Kat a little bit too. I think, yes, we need to keep doing it, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, that sounds good, we do a blurb and then it falls back to the bottom. It just needs to get floated back up to the top of our priorities, to be honest.
And when you talk about it, you should talk to every chamber in Sherburne County.
Yeah. And that's part of where my stretch too, right? Like, I'm very familiar around here and we're working on growing, but I'm not near as familiar, and I know the need is, even though the numbers might be a little less, the need is really great in Big Lake, the need is in Clear Lake, it's in Becker, it's in Zimmerman. It's the entire county, it's actually the entire, kind of our rural area.
Yes.
I wonder if there's a way, to put together some sort of, internally, put together some marketing materials in concert with the Y from the EDA, and that becomes part of the packet that, when you're doing, or when we're doing touch bases with the businesses, it's something that we bring up to them, kind of like we're piloting the veterans thing. It might be another avenue to get that word out a little bit more. Because I would suspect that there are, in every organization, I would suspect there are, there'd be at least a couple of people that might be interested, depending on the size of the organization.
And getting the word on other school districts besides ISD 728, right? So Becker and Big Lake and Clear Lake.
That area outside of this bubble.
Yeah.
Well, what I might suggest, I'll just throw out to you, is childcare is on our strategic plan. And I think it's a big topic. Quite honestly, I'm not overly optimistic that we're gonna come up with huge answers here, but I think it's our duty to explore everything we possibly can to come up with the best. And we've got a pretty full agenda today. So what I would suggest, and this is, kind of goes into how to address our full strategic plan, is if we take the childcare portion of the strategic plan and set that aside for an agenda item, and we can just talk specifically on that and make sure that we get everything on the table we possibly can, get action items to fulfill that strategic plan, instead of trying to, just throw out ideas in 10 minutes. Here we can actually do something to facilitate the strategic plan and know where we sit. What are your thoughts on that?
Could we get a speaker from Minnesota Housing to come to attend one of our meetings?
First Children's Finance or Milestones Minnesota, yeah. Actually, Stephanie was gonna, I had invited her today, but she had a conflict. So yeah, I think if we know ahead of time, or absolutely, and probably both. They're both really, really good, strong resources and at no cost to folks who want to get involved and engaged in that program. And so, again, letting people know that that's out there. I mean, I learned all this as I was exploring, like, there's all these resources, just like the EDA even has for entrepreneurs, but we just don't always let people know that. So
Well, and
yes.
I would say too, our Sherburne County Connect meeting that we have next Friday, they're actually speaking at our Sherburne County Connect, so I would extend that invitation to, obviously, anyone in this room that wanted to hear. Now, they're gonna be talking more specifically about their rural childcare innovation program, which is where, this is the, Rayanne and I actually met with them and virtually and learned about this program, and my takeaway was that it's really not a county level initiative, the work that they do. It's basically what they did here, this childcare needs analysis, but they drill down more specifically into community. And Sherburne County, quite frankly, is just too big. Like Elk River looks very different from Clear Lake. So they recommended that those become city-led initiatives, but regional participation, because it's not just an analysis. They form like a focus group that, where you get the results of your analysis, but then that focus group is solution implementation to really try to move towards progress. And it's like a 2 or 2.5 year deal that they work with you on. And so they're gonna be talking to our meeting, our group next Friday about that specific program, so.
Yeah, and I think this is great. I mean, Molly, would it be okay because what this does is we kind of took the lid off of it today. Looked at, got the overview of the problem, but now this will also give us as a board, time to think about this, and have some ideas, make some contacts on our own, whatever we need to do, so when we do bring it back on the agenda item. And so Molly, would you be willing to take calls, on questions on some of this from board if?
Of course, are things to check into, look into, of course. I'm not
Okay.
the expert by any means, but I'm making connections and learning and be happy to.
Well, you're our expert, so.
Scary, no, I was kidding.
Yeah, I think your idea is a good idea where we don't have as much, we focus on certain things in the strategic plan and really give it the time it needs in our hour.
And Mr. Chair and Molly as well too, I mean, this is also one of our priorities within our business as well too. We actually have a group that's dedicated. Our Big Lake facility and Monticello facility are part of a pilot within the child care program of a group of about a dozen people within Cargill that are working specifically on this, coming up with different solutions and business plans for it. So I have a lot of information that we can potentially share as well too. We're still kind of in the middle of it though.
Yeah, that'd be great, so, go ahead.
No, I'm hopeful, I said, yeah, it's great.
So yeah, if we take this opportunity to collect information from our personal experiences, we all have stories, do some research, come up with ideas that we could, throw out here in more of an organized manner, I think, might be the best use of our time. Any other questions for, Molly?
No, thanks Molly for picking it up
Yeah,
and
thank
digging
you very
in.
much. All right, development market update, Todd.
All right, so I have something I just put together this morning, no PowerPoint or anything like that.
Good old fashioned paper.
Yeah, good old fashioned paper, that's old school. I think I have enough copies, so. We can share. Yep. So just a little background with me. I've been doing land stuff since I've been 21. Since then, I've bought and sold 11 houses, and then we've done 3 land developments as well. Currently, Sheldon and I, we have a 23 land development by Orrock. Prices are at $124,900 right now. Price Homes is our exclusive builder in there, and their prices for their homes are $699 to $924. With 3 homes that are completed and all are sale pending right now. So I kind of thought that we'd be looking at something a little bit different with the high interest rates, like $699 to $924 it's getting to be a lot, but things are still selling yet. So currently right now on the MLS online, there are 135 lots and raw land available. Prices from $48.5 to $3.2 million.
How large are your lots?
Our lots are right around 2.5 acres for the most part, aren't they? Like 2.5, maybe 3.
Yeah,
So
some are 3, just depending on the country. There's a beautiful subdivision with lots of wetland, so to get the 40,000 square feet of buildable space, we're
Right.
larger than 2.5.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that 3,240,000, that is not, that's a
That's a large piece, like
big
that
piece,
place,
like
I
100
think,
and some
on
acres.
the one on 10,
Yeah.
kinda,
Okay.
that place,
Yeah.
that's the big one.
That's what I mentioned.
But right now, we have, 188 active homes in Sherburne County. So 188 are active, but 145 are pending right now, sales. So you have, basically, there were 300 homes and, half of them are already sold and pending. Which I don't know if it was this year that builders maybe held back a little bit, I don't know what the reason is for.
And Todd, to my understanding, there are no big pieces that I'm aware of that most cities have to be able to add extra lots to that inventory. I know that some people bought bigger pieces and then the sale fell off.
Yeah, there are a few places, I think, around Big Lake right now that have, some development, city lot type development, but I think that's really, I don't know if there's anything in Elk
I'm
River. I
not
haven't
aware
looked
of
at it.
anything that needs infrastructure to it.
It's
Yeah.
available lots. Big thing
Yeah.
is the cost to build.
Right,
I
yeah,
mean, so they're pulling back on building. You talk about building, I mean, cost is still an issue.
yeah, so do you guys have very many lots
I
available
don't know
right
the
now?
inventory,
Like-
but we do have some lots available. And some have been preliminary platted, but maybe they have to go through final plat stage,
Right.
so they could do that pretty easily.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think there's definitely gonna be a situation coming up though where we're gonna run out of lots real soon. Probably within the next year, I would say, we're gonna be pretty well out. Let's see what else here. So out of the houses that are available right now, so I just did, so homes from 199 to 250, there's only 6 in Sherburne County. So if you look at the $250,000 house without a down payment, taxes, you're looking at $2,100 or $2,200 essentially at 6.7%. Same house at 3%, which was just a little while ago. So it's extra $500-$600 a month, that they're seeing in extra cost on a lower scale house. And then kind of the bigger areas, we got 82 homes in the 250 to 400, and then 73 homes from 400 to 600. But you can see at a $500,000 house, you're looking at a $4,300 payment.
Way more homes on the high end.
What's that?
Way more homes on the high end.
Yeah, there is.
You must be able to recoup your money better on after you buy a lot.
Well, I think it's just this area in particular, Sherburne County is, and kind of the metro area. If you look at even St. Cloud, you'll still see a lot of 200, 250 houses. But even if you go up to Malacca, it's still expensive. There's for example, I was looking this morning, there's a single wide trailer on a 1.3 acre lot with a little garage on it for $199, and it's still pending. That's just a single wide, so you would be able to buy a house, 5-6 years ago for that, but it's crazy. And then we have 27 homes between 600 and 1.35 million. All the $1 million homes though are in Zimmerman. So, which is a surprise.
According to this, most of these are pending, right? Because of what your information is up here.
Out of, so 188 homes are active right now, 145 are pending right now.
And this would mean some of these numbers are in that pending stage then, down below, when you break them.
No, these would be all the active ones.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep. So there's, with childcare, and then you got the 7% or 8%, I think already we're seeing 8% loans. People are getting squeezed, I don't know, it's such a big issue that.
That's part of the inventory problem, is who's gonna move from a 3% interest rate.
Right, yeah,
Put a
everybody's
house on the market
staying
and then have
parked
to
right
buy
now.
at an 8% interest rate.
And I don't see what we've talked about in the past is the cost to get that land ready. You can get it platted pretty easily, but now you gotta get the infrastructure run, you gotta put the road system in. That's a huge cost these days for developers, and they're just not willing to go in. The price of the lot would be outrageous, so until there gets to be that, partnership, I don't know how long we're gonna wait.
Well, like for us, so it'll take almost a year. I mean, essentially, it's almost a year, probably 9 months, right? I mean, if you're 6 months, if you're really cooking, if all the dates line up.
Public
But
hearing process, yeah, I mean, you guys move pretty rapidly.
yeah,
That's
that
a lot
last
of-
one we did is about as fast as you could do it, but that, so the difficult thing is, they put out all this money, but if it's gonna take us 6 months, a year, you don't know what that market's gonna be coming up in that next,
And you're
You
not
know, next-
putting, you're putting well and septic
yeah,
as versus,
city sewer and
city
water.
sewer and
But we're
water.
still building roads
Right,
though,
right.
so that's a huge cost as well. So, you don't know, if you're looking at, and what's that market gonna be in another 6 to 12 months? That's why I think a lot of people are jittery, like pulling the trigger, you know, how do you know? Cause on development, it's not like buying a truck and selling a truck, you know, we have it, we can sell it like the next day. This is pumping out, you know, $1 million or more, and then you're sitting on it for a year, and you have no money coming in at all,
Do you go
so,
to Vegas often?
no.
There's holding costs too, cause you're paying taxes.
Yeah, you're paying
Right.
taxes on it,
Well,
yeah.
you're paying probably a loan of some sort. Not everybody has that kind of money to shell out. So you're paying a loan with interest attached.
Well, I think what we're dealing with a lot here is out of our control, cause you're dealing with, economic corrections that should naturally happen in the economy. Things that possibly we can look at, for developers, that we do have control over is making the pathway from startup to completion as simple as possible. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Mark.
That's an oxymoron. We have a thing called civil plat.
Clearing the
and-
red tape, you know, and Sherburne County does a great job, but, not all cities do. Sometimes the process is very cumbersome, and there again, as Todd says, time is money. And, personally, I don't think this is gonna correct anytime soon, because there's still a very high demand for housing. Between the crash of 2008 and today, us as builders did not produce enough inventory to take care of needs, so we never got caught up. And, so even with the higher interest rates and everything else, people still need a place to live, which is gonna drive demand, which is, gonna keep prices high. There again, that's just economics, and, it's, through history, you're gonna see this all the way through. But as an EDA, if there's things we can do to, help municipalities clear the way, clear the path. So the timeline, if you can shave 6 months off of a timeline for a developer, you're talking big money and a lot more inducement. Also in the county, you know, the more, the more properties you can get on a plat, the more, enticing it is for a developer. So if you can go from a 2.5 acre lot down to a 1 acre lot, and now there's a lot more potential for a developer to come in and make that development profitable and be willing to sit on it.
Can you talk about the comp plan a little bit?
Yeah.
How does that relate to this discussion?
Yep, and so a couple different levels that it relates to this discussion. One is housing in general, you know, the life cycle housing concept that we threw out there really got a lot of traction, a lot of support. So the desire is to promote more than a single dwelling on a parcel of land, that accessory dwelling unit, to make that an option. You have these 2.5 acre lots, so you're providing an opportunity for some individuals to, you know, utilize their property to bring a kid there, or to have a secondary house for a parent or something along those lines. That was a real strong recommendation that we got from most of the feedback that we got. The townships were in strong support of that. So that addresses kind of the outer end spectrums. We also are looking at lot sizes. Most of the townships, you know, when they reviewed this, they wanted to kind of keep that same pattern. of 1 per 2.5 acres. And in our agricultural areas of western part of Sherburne County, it's 1 per 5. And we limit it to 3 subdivisions. The western part of Sherburne County likely won't see a lot of change. We'll probably go down in acreage. And acreage drives up the price of houses. You know, those, if you did I did an early analysis looking at a 1 acre lot subdivision that was developed in Palmer Township versus your subdivision. It was about $150,000 difference between properties, you know, looking at, 1 acre versus 2.5 acres. So there is, of course, a reduction in value. So comprehensive plan will have policies dealing with the opportunity to, go down to smaller lot sizes under certain standards. Right now, the standards that we have in our comprehensive plan are pretty restrictive. So we will allow someone to go down to as small as 1.5 acres under a planned unit development. And it has to have certain conservation elements built into it, preserving certain portions of the property, a little more open space dedicated to it. So the hope is to allow that, but it again, it's can be pretty restrictive as it's currently written. So the policy is to still support that, but revisit that ordinance to see, again, is it too onerous, or we create too many obstacles?
What's the reasoning for the lot sizes, minimum lot size being 2.5 acres?
Yep. Reasoning for that, goes back to well and septic. How are we going to, ensure that we have well and septic on the property, they have adequate space for well and septic for the next, multi-generations of housing.
Well, when you talk about well and septic, there is a PUD-style development that went on in Big Lake years ago over off County Road 43. Those lots are, a little over an acre, if that. And they are now starting to see the struggles of having to replace their well and septic, because you gotta be so far away from your well. And the cost to replace when you have an existing septic that went bad, the cost is quite great because you've got to be so far away from certain things.
Well, in Elk River, there were 2 PUDs, and both of them, the well and septic failed, and now they're gonna be tied into city water
Well,
and sewer.
that's a,
But-
Excuse me, Rand,
Sorry.
But-
that development is, they're half-acre lots.
are they half acre? Okay.
There's a big difference between a half acre
Yes,
and an acre as far as being able to put secondary.
Well, that was my question.
septic.
What is the minimum size to be able to put well and septic on?
Well, I own 2 properties that are half acre. One's a half acre, one's a 3/4, right next to the development that Rand's discussing, and works flawlessly. I mean, we are blessed with great soils in Sherburne County, so,
Depending on what you want.
yeah, right. Personally, I think a 1 acre lot, it does give adequate size because what you're looking for, it's not hard to fit a septic, on a property. You can do that on a half acre, you can do that on a 1/4 acre lot. However, it's typically, good practice to have a secondary site. So when you have a 1 acre lot, you're typically gonna have room, so if you did fail with this septic, you've got room to put a new septic in.
So, I guess we can table this for later if we want, but I think I would be interested in, as far as the comprehensive plan goes, understanding what the logic is, like you said, for the original minimum lot size versus, what could we take it to now? I think that's worth revisiting.
And I think there was also a little bit of aesthetics. So we have a standard, buildable lot area. You have to demonstrate that you have 40,000 square feet of land that has at least 3 feet of separation between the seasonal high water table. So portions of Sherburne County, that's very easy to accomplish. Other portions, it's not. Right. So the 40,000 really is kind of our baseline. You have to have this for the purpose of providing space for that primary and secondary septic system. Because any new lot created in Minnesota, you have to show that's on well and septic. You have to demonstrate that there is that primary and secondary septic system. So 40,000 is kind of our, is what the county has established historically as a baseline, as well as, we think it's practical to do well and septic for generations on a property. But yeah, the 2.5 acres, I think 2.5 acres also in part was for the rural character, the larger lot sizes, the accessory buildings.
But that's in conflict with trying to deal with the housing crisis, right? So yeah, I get it, right, the rural character of 2.5 acres, I get that. But if at the same time we're saying we've got a housing crisis where we need, to get, more housing in, and it has to be more affordable, well, you're not gonna build a cheap house on 2.5, well, you can't. But, I mean, the point is that I just think it's worth revisiting. There may be some valid reasons, I'm sure there are valid reasons around the current decision, and there's always trade-offs, but I think it's worth looking at.
I agree 100%.
One other thing too that's worth looking at is when you spoke to the community, well and septic systems that
Yeah.
are out there, they don't have the ability to tie onto the property tax statement for everybody to pay for that system to keep it maintained and updated. Maybe that's something to look at
Yeah.
as well, because when they fail,
Yeah.
not everybody's paying their share because they don't seem to understand the concept and they can't do anything about
Are you
collecting.
referring to a community?
Referring to some of these, well, like out there at the shores of Eagle Lake, that is a community.
But those aren't being allowed, you're not processing any, cluster.
So, cluster, the only way cluster can go in is if it goes under, it's called service, municipal service agreement, where basically a township takes over,
Yeah,
is the
and that's how
responsibility
they were all
for that.
set up when it was kind of the big
Subordinate
deal.
service.
Where Connexus or some of the utilities were gonna take over the management of it, and they've all ran
And
away
the
from
homeowner
that.
association being the one that was backing, so the homeowner associations didn't hold up. So that's where townships are now. Baldwin Township, for example, has had to step in on 2 different occasions to become the subordinate service district. So clusters are not something that's gonna show up in Sherburne County again. No, we are looking at smaller lot sizes, and it also has to do, some maintaining rural character, stage development, closer into the metro area, closer into the city, so those growth areas of the cities, evaluating what options are there, having a little bit higher density there. And then as you move further away from the townships, a little bit larger lot size.
Okay, any questions for Todd or further discussion? Thank you for your time putting that information together.
Can I just throw one thing out there regarding, Rianne made a comment about this, and it really is, we've only seen a handful of developments that actually are putting in roads. Most of them are using existing roads, accessing, going in with bigger lots, because they don't want to install roads. That is a big barrier right now to development, So, Todd's development, and we have one more coming in right now, but I mean, it's pretty few and far between. Most of our developments are utilizing existing road frontage and not creating new roads.
Are you seeing just smaller, like 1-2 lot split off type deals?
But they're doing larger lot sizes too, so they'll
So
go
they
out
don't
there
have to
and
put
break
in-
out 5-acre lots in, 3 5-acre lots. And they'll just utilize the 600 square feet or 600 linear feet of road frontage for that versus historical developments might have brought a road in and, utilized it a little bit more.
Real quick question before we move on, can I ask,
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair? When we're talking about the thought that we wanna be able to allow, another housing or another house or some form of development on a property that already has a house, when we're looking at doing that in the future, are we looking at having to have some caveat in there where the septic has to be oversized then? Most of the time, septics are put in for the 3-bedroom that you're building.
Yep.
Not addressing the fact you might put an accessory unit
Yeah.
on that same property. How would that be addressed to allow that
They
flexibility?
would have to have a septic design demonstrating, whatever septic capacity they need for that structure. So if it's 1-bedroom dwelling, they have to either find a way to tie into the existing system, and if it's sized appropriate, or expand it, or create their own septic system for that. So there's a handful of criteria. It would be just like building another home. It still has all the building code requirements, all the building permit requirements, a licensed septic designer to review and coordinate that.
Todd, Mark, thank you so much. Looks like Jessica's gonna take us home now.
Mr. Chair, do you care if I switch 6 and 7 so we can get that strategic?
Okay, sounds good.
Let's get it approved.
I do, this is
You
not.
have it until motion to adjourn, so you do whatever you want.
All right. So I don't know what degree you guys want to go back through the strategic plan. I did shortly after our EDA meeting last month, sent out the final revision with everything that we talked about incorporated in that. So my question would be, did you want to go back through? Did anyone have any questions or feedback, or where are we at with that as far as the group is concerned?
Well, I've read through it, I'm fine, with it, but we do have time if we wanted to do a quick run through, not line by line, but maybe hit the high points.
Okay.
I'd like if you did the red lines, we could see what changes you made, so that was helpful, so thank you.
So this one up here on the screen is the final version. If we just kind of scroll down a little bit, I know there is a markup version that you guys saw too. But really, we just, I literally, like you guys saw on the markup version, I just took notes. Granted, they probably didn't make much sense to anybody else but me as you were reading through, but, so we essentially, I kind of want to pull up. Can you scroll down just a little bit there, Chrissy? Okay, so we did condense our objectives from 10 down to 9. We just combined number 3 and 4. And then we changed the property tax base verbiage there to business base in number 7. Oh, we changed the whole thing there. Expand and diversify the county's commercial tax base to help offset residential taxes. Moving down to our areas of focus, those remained in the prioritized order that went to the commissioners, and then that was the feedback that came back from them, and then we built our plan from there. So our first one was business retention and expansion, which obviously we're working on that on an ongoing basis. Not just myself, but I know I've invited a couple EDA members to visits. We actually have one this afternoon, and then city staff as well. And Chrissy, if you want to continue on down, workforce. A little bit further. There we go. So we did add some different goals in workforce than what were originally on the plan. And we talked about identifying partnerships, increasing local employer knowledge of CTE programs. I know our local school district does a really good job. I would say, when I say local, I'm saying like the Elk River School District does a really good job. I personally would like to get to know more about Big Lake and Becker and, get out a little bit more in there. So that'll be one thing that we'll be working on there. And then down into housing, our goals down into housing. So we talked about updating the housing study. That's one thing that we'll have to get moved on to an agenda item to talk about if we're gonna do the full update or the refresh option that they had. So there's a lot of things in here that will, again, become agenda items, much like childcare will be. And then we did add on the bottom of the housing section, a housing land trust to research what this is. I think that's a real interesting concept and a good project for this group. And then we have the policy review and updates. So when we talk about policy review and updates, we just kind of had one of those discussions, which is really nice with the zoning and Mark's comp plan. And so we did add a number 4 here, which is the EDA to actively participate in budget development. Previous to this, I know there's also discussion on what it would look like right now if the EDA were to levy. There's further things on that. So these are just things that you guys will be exploring over the next year. Broadband. Oh, that's all right. I don't know where we're at. Oh, that is the broadband. Okay. So broadband, we had become top 5. Laura informed me that was a little lofty, so we we revised. We revised what that looks like, and then of course to refresh the broadband study, we added that in there. Childcare focus. You know, this has been an interesting one. So initially, we had one thing in childcare, and that was to build a relationship with Health and Human Services and learn their work. Obviously, through our discussions going through this plan, we've expanded that to, we have 4 different goals in there. And really, what I've been doing, and I'll have a couple minutes later, I'm really just been trying to figure out, talk to whoever I can and bend their ear on who's actively doing anything in childcare and how the EDA can either fit in or support their work, because this is a whole new area for us to be exploring. Federal Economic Development District designation. We do have some goals in there, and we're also going to be doing somewhat of a workshop with the EDA to, you know, just so everyone is fully aware of what that means and what that process is. Transportation. The main change in this one was that we changed that number 3 to not just say North Star commuter rail, but to evaluate commuter opportunities in general, which may or may not include the North Star commuter rail. And then marketing, there wasn't a whole lot of changes in the marketing section, aside from look at SEO marketing for EDA. And that's something that we can look at. And then that's basically it. That's good.
No, great work. I know you put a lot of time and effort into this, so now the key with any strategic plan is execution. And so that's where personally I'd really like to make sure we have a game plan to thoroughly try to execute this so this doesn't get shelved or looked over because of the amount of work that went into getting this far. I've seen too many of them that happens to. I'm not saying this body or obviously Jessica with her lofty goals. She has got to do 75 business retention visits a month too, I think. At one time.
The goal would be to report every EDA meeting at least 10 minutes on what was accomplished as part of the plan. And then you can give feedback if we need to change the plan at all. So it will be a monthly discussion.
Yeah. And again, just for you guys to think about, if we do want to pull out the prioritized items and utilize some of the knowledge and bodies around the room to help strategically execute the strategic plan, I think would be benefit instead of just dumping it on you guys, say, here's your plan, report back to us. I think we owe, as an EDA board, we owe you more than that, and I think there's resources around the table, and who knows who's gonna have the next bright idea. That's the thing, you don't know where it's gonna come from, but I do know when you're in a group of like-minded people, that one idea just might happen, so.
One suggestion on how to keep the strategic plan moving forward is one of the best practices that I've seen in the past. You take the 5-year strategic plan, and then you divide that up, and you have each year you have a set of specific goals, right, to obtain in that year.
It has to be measurable.
Yeah, they have to be measurable, but they're specific goals that tie back to the strategic plan each year. And then at the end of the whatever cycle you want to do, you do a quick review, make sure that the strategic plan doesn't need to be updated, or if it does, update it slightly, and then set your next set of annual goals and do it that way so they're measurable. There are tactical things to be done off of the strategic plan each year.
So as a follow-up to that, do you want us to take a stab at that and bring a 5-year plan to the EDA?
I wouldn't do it as a 5-year plan. I would do it as each year. I mean, you could do a 5-year plan, but I think, my opinion, one of all of us around the table here, but just have from this, the strategic plan, have a set of year 1 goals that you want to accomplish, we can agree on, and then, but make sure as part of the op-tempo of this, there's a period 12 months from now or whatever, where we revisit the strategic plan, see if anything needs to be tweaked, and then set the next year's goals.
So in my previous job, we did something similar. We had our overall strategic plan, but then we would do a goal-setting session where we would establish goals for the year, and then we made our budget requests based off of those goals.
And
So,
I'll just throw out to take it one step further, once those yearly goals are established, there's one more step. Now we have to drill down to what are the action items that are gonna get us to that goal. And so it's, kind of a three-step process, and I think the third is ultimately the most important, because that's where we come up with the ideas to get there to the goals.
Yeah, who's gonna do what by when?
Yep. Okay. Still your meeting.
so I guess what I would be looking for is a recommendation to approve to the board.
So moved.
I'll second.
Why does it pass?
Oh,
Any further discussion?
Well said, John.
No, I wouldn't wanna take that phone call later this afternoon. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again for all your hard work.
I can say it now.
And just one follow-up, for the board approval, do you want us to present this to the full board, put it on consent, have a workshop? How do you want the next step? Maybe we can have that conversation afterwards.
Yeah, let's have it afterwards. I'm okay with consent. Well, we could do a workshop and I don't care.
Well, and with consent, if anybody sees anything they have a really huge issue with, they can always pull it off for the conversation.
That's true.
And I did just want to let the board know that, I am going to incorporate the strategic plan into our comprehensive plan also. So we have these different plans, so we reflect back to this. So when we are evaluating land use decisions, we refer to this also.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is a business retention update. So what you have in front of you, that executive pulse software that you approved earlier, and we got it all put together and we're using it, actively using it. It became live as of April 24th, 2023. And this is a report that's run out of that software. So since April 24th, we've logged interactions with 26 different companies. And this can be a variety of different things. The interactions or touch report can be a BR&E visit. It can just be a pop-in if it was recorded, or a phone call. We've saved files with a couple different companies, set reminders, and conducted and logged 12 business retention and expansion visits in the software. And then we have another one later this afternoon with TJ Potter that will also go in there. Some trends that we've identified so far, companies are not aware of state level grants and programs that they're able to apply for. So as we go through and ask our questions, that's one thing. They have projects, they are purchasing equipment, they're implementing automation, they're doing things like that. They have no idea of what's available at the state level to support that. Examples of that would be Paragon. They're looking at implementing Paragon fixtures in Big Lake. They're looking at implementing it would be training for new automation equipment is what they were looking at. And so I was able to set up a secondary meeting with them, with the grant administrator for the state of Minnesota, for their ATIP and JTIP programs, which is automation training incentive programs and job training incentive programs. And so then they were able to, and they're actually applying for some of those programs as a result of that meeting. And then the same CMP attachments, we had a similar type meeting. They're growing super fast, they're buying a robot and all that stuff, but government moves much slower than they were hoping for, so that's not an option for them this time, but they know it exists now, so maybe next time they can utilize those. Another trend is that companies would like to partner with other organizations, but don't know how or who to contact and things like that. So one partnership that came of that would be Eastie Enterprises out of Big Lake and the Magnus Veterans Foundation. Eastie had expressed an interest that they wanted to specifically hire veterans and target veterans for employment, but they didn't know how to find veterans for employment. And so I had set up a meeting with them and actually a tour of Magnus. I toured Magnus with Eastie Enterprises, and they all got in the same room, and whatever happened from there happened from there. But I was able to make that connection that as part of Magnus's, I think it's a 5-pillar wellness program that they have there, The last one would include social wellness, and that would also encompass seeking employment. And so they were able to discuss what they could do there. And then also Metalcraft. We've been over at Metalcraft. This was actually Commissioner House's brilliant idea. And so now Metalcraft, as part of their new hire packages, are able to tell their employees, or new hire employees, and connect them with our Veteran Services Department for either themselves or their family members, and they have a direct contact. So that was another thing that come from that. And then we're of course able to identify companies that want to grow and expand. And I would say the last one, which was most notable, was BioNote. Teresa and I went to BioNote, and that was just, I'm gonna say it, it was super cool. Dan makes fun of me because I say that all the time, but I'm gonna say it anyways. It was super cool because their parent company is over in Korea. And over in Korea, what they do is they research and develop and manufacture veterinary lab devices. So they do all the blood work, anything veterinary related, they manufacture those lab devices over there. Well, they are also, their parent company is looking to bring manufacturing to the United States. And so right now, BioNote in Big Lake is responsible for marketing and sales of those products in the United States, but they're not manufactured here. And so they want to get their Korean parent company interested in bringing manufacturing here to Big Lake. And coincidentally, the week after we were there, their parent company was coming for a visit, and they were excited and nervous because it's a big deal when they come. And they wanted information on how to pitch Big Lake as the spot in the United States to bring their manufacturing. And they wanted information on our workforce and our population and all that kind of stuff. And so from that, I was able to put together city and county level demographic, workforce, population, education, attainment, and just market industry data in a little PowerPoint, and I sent it to them. So they had that to share with their parent company when they came. So those are the types of things that are coming from these visits.
Jessica, BioNote, is that one of the new names for what used to be Remley?
No,
This is a whole different facility?
across the street.
Okay, so it's over in the
By,
industrial park?
yeah, by where Ray's used to be.
Okay, yeah.
And I would say overall, I mean, the overall vibes, like businesses they love being in Sherburne County. We've had several that have moved to Sherburne County because we're more tax friendly, we're easier to work with, lower land and building costs. I know, that's just what I hear from people, that's what they're telling me.
Good, we'll
These
keep
are
it that way.
these are ones who have come from like larger counties, we'll say that. So, and then our workforce, of course, is awesome, and accessibility to highways and stuff, but, those are what's coming from these visits. Are there any questions on that?
No, but I do have one action. I'm still trying to follow up with the recruiting company that I was talking to you about.
Yeah.
They've just been going through they're in their busy season right now, so they haven't been able to get back. We haven't been able to touch base. We've played phone tag for the last couple of weeks.
And then I know we're at time. Can I have like 5 minutes to talk about some other things or no? Or do you want to get out of here?
How are we with our bus?
You can go check on that while she's,
Go ahead.
I mean, we can take off too, and she can go through.
let me go check where it's at. But go ahead,
So I
Jessica.
just wanted to talk about like the economic development activities that I've been working on aside from BR&E, because there's just a lot. And when we go through this strategic plan and we're talking about goals and how we're gonna do things, I've been doing some legwork on what it would look like for the Sherburne County EDA to participate in different things. And so Renee and I are working together right now for a business incubator / entrepreneurial small business development program in Big Lake, or Becker, sorry. You know, that is of course in response to the decommissioning of Sherco and how can we bring new business development back to Becker. And so we're meeting with the Just Transition Fund. We have our second consultation this afternoon about possible grant dollars that they'll be able to apply for to support this program. We identified, it's called the ILT Academy, and they run cohorts, they're 10-week cohorts for 24 entrepreneurs, which would be extended across the county.
That was fantastic, by the way.
Yes. So this is just kind of a fun thing that we're, really trying to figure out how to get off the ground. I talked a little bit about First Children's Finance, so I won't cover that again. We have been, the Sherburne County, Benton, Stearns, and Wright counties, and then the Initiative Foundation have been engaging with federal authorities and different cities for, to bring back the revitalization of the Region 7W federal designation, or I should say Economic Development District designation. And there's likely going to be a feasibility study that the Initiative Foundation will fund. The Business Lab had a major upgrade, and I have flyers for everyone since I know everyone's super stoked about that. So the county pays for the Business Lab, and they just did like a huge upgrade. So they previously did startup coaching, business management coaching, and then like roundtables and stuff. Now people can go on there and they can do their succession planning coaching, website evals, website design boot camps, peer learning roundtables, peer learning forums, and then they have a whole virtual curated workshop library and then podcast library. So it's become very robust and a wonderful tool. So as you're out in the community, share, like this is about 5 times the Business Lab it was a month ago.
No additional cost.
No additional cost. Yep. The last thing that I want to talk about real quick is there's an economic recovery core that is through IEDC, and I am like really, really interested, and I stick my head in Dan's office almost every day, and I'm like, and then I feel like he's like, oh, here she's back. So it is super cool. Get this. So we can apply. I'm excited. So we can apply for this program, and what they do is they place a fellow in our area for 2.5 years, and we have to apply with a project or with an idea that this fellow is going to work on and move forward. And so I did have a virtual meeting to just kind of like trim down my ideas because I get really excited sometimes. And Dan had mentioned CMRP, which this will obviously come before CMRP at some point in time if we get there. But what we settled on was leaning into our coal community and the interconnectivity with CMRP and transportation, and the lack of connectivity that prohibits needed economic development. And so if we were able to apply for this program and we got accepted with this project that our fellow would work on, that could be something that they would be fully dedicated to doing. And it does not cost the county anything. The IEDC pays their fellows like $90,000 a year, and they are experienced economic development professionals, so they come like ready to rock.
CMRP would be very excited. Central Mississippi River Partnership, working on transportation and a bridge crossing.
Yeah.
You're giving them the thing nobody wants to do. Yeah, let's bring this guy. We're done with this, right?
Well said.
So that's what I've been. That's all. Thank you for entertaining me for 5 more minutes.
That's awesome. Great work.
Very good. Well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You guys were a lot quicker on that one than.
Jessica,